For Lukács, money is not wealth. It is the mask that turns human beings into things. In capitalism, we do not use money. Money uses us. For György Lukács, money is not simply wealth. It is not a collection of coins, banknotes, or numbers displayed on a screen. Money is something far more powerful and far more dangerous. It is the mask that transforms human beings into things. In the modern world, says Lukács, we are not the ones using money. More and more often, money is using us. In early 20th century Budapest, along the banks of the Danube, a young man walks lost in thought. His name is György Lukács. He is not yet the philosopher who will influence generations of intellectuals. He is not yet the theorist who will be studied in universities around the world. He is simply an intelligent and restless young man. A man unable to accept things as they appear. Born into a wealthy and respected family, he grows up in a world where money is never lacking. He could have seen it as a blessing. He could have seen it as a guarantee of freedom. Yet the opposite happens. The more he observes the world around him, the more convinced he becomes that something disturbing hides behind its prosperity. A question begins to haunt him. Why does everything seem to have a price? Why is a person's worth measured by status, income, and usefulness? And above all, what happens to human beings when everything can be bought and sold? Lukács quickly realizes that money is not just an economic tool. It does not simply buy goods. It classifies, compares, it measures. Little by little, it becomes the universal standard through which society interprets reality. And when everything is measured, everything risks being reduced to a quantity, including human beings. This is where one of his most famous ideas emerges. Reification. A difficult word for a simple and terrifying phenomenon. People stop being people. They become things. They become functions, roles, numbers, parts of a machine. In the capitalist system, the worker is no longer seen as an individual with dreams, fears, and desires. The worker becomes labor power, a cost, a line in a budget. And money makes this transformation almost invisible. It makes it seem natural, normal, inevitable. But Lukács goes even further. Capitalism, in his view, does not merely organize the economy. It organizes our perception of reality. It creates what he calls a second nature. An artificial world that becomes so familiar it appears as natural as the rising sun or falling rain. In this world, money becomes the secret language of every relationship. It determines the value of time. It determines the value of work. It determines prestige, success, and even self-esteem. It teaches us to see ourselves and others as objects to evaluate, to compare, to classify. And the stronger this mechanism becomes, the further human beings drift away from themselves. The more they forget what they truly are. Yet Lukács is not a distant observer. He is not a philosopher locked away in an ivory tower. He is a man shaped by the very contradictions he criticizes. He loves literature. He loves theater. He loves life. He suffers from the political failures of his age. He constantly reflects on the relationship between theory and reality. His letters reveal a complex and often troubled personality. A man trying to balance private life with intellectual responsibility. A man who watches modernity advance with both admiration and fear. Because he understands that technological progress can improve life. But it can also drain life of meaning. 3 dates run through his life like stations on the same journey. In 1919, Lukács takes part in the Hungarian revolutionary experiment. He believes radical social change is possible. He believes people can free themselves from the structures that dominate them. The experiment fails. But the question remains. How do you truly change the world? In 1923 he publishes his most famous work, History and Class Consciousness, a book destined to leave a deep mark on 20th century thought. Within its pages is a message that still speaks to us today. We are not things. We are human beings who have forgotten that we are human. In 1968, European universities fill with students in revolt. Lukács is now an old man. He watches them with interest. He understands that their struggle is not only political. It is also a rejection of a society that turns every aspect of life into a commodity, a rebellion against the reification of existence. The heart of his philosophy can be summarized in a powerful image. Under capitalism, a reversal takes place. Money becomes the subject. Human beings become the object. Commodities seem alive. Markets appear as uncontrollable forces of nature. Economic crises are described like inevitable storms, like natural disasters. But for Lukács, this is an illusion. Behind the market are human decisions. Behind money are human relationships. Behind the economy are people. The problem begins when we forget this truth. When our own creations start to dominate us. When the means become the end. Lukács did not hate money. He understood that a complex society cannot function without it. What he feared was something else. He feared the moment when money became the only possible language. The only standard of judgment. The only measure of human worth. Because when everything is translated into a price, something is inevitably lost. Dignity. Solidarity. The ability to see in others something that cannot be bought. And cannot be sold. In 1971, György Lukács dies in Budapest, surrounded by his books. He leaves behind a complex legacy. A debated legacy. A controversial legacy. But he also leaves behind a question that still echoes today. In an age dominated by algorithms, ratings, data, and global markets, are we really sure that we control money? Or, as that young man walking beside the Danube sensed more than a century ago, are we slowly allowing money to decide who we are? Lukács invites us to remember a simple truth. A human being is worth more than what they produce. More than what they own. More than what the market is willing to pay. And perhaps true freedom begins here. With a refusal to confuse price with value. Because everything may have a price. But not everything has a value that money can measure. This author was especially admired during the 1970s, when many young people recognized that industrialization had reached extraordinary levels, often turning human beings into mere extensions of machines and ultimately into objects. I believe this theme remains highly relevant today. With the rise of robotics and artificial intelligence, humanity risks losing even more of its essence if it does not take care of its inner life and If you are interested in topics related to money and its influence on society, write in the comments where you are watching from. Thank you.